Hi everyone, I'm Kritisha and welcome to Dhikichyau The Podcast. This is another episode of the In Conversation series where we have interesting guests and we try to understand why they are the way they are. So without any further ado, let's welcome Pranayna KC. Welcome to Dhikichyau The Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
How do you feel?
I feel all right. Luckily, I've just recovered from the viral that's going around, but I feel good being here.
Nice. To give alikati background about Pranayna KC, she has a diverse experience of over 12 years and she's worked in many countries including Nepal, India and Australia. She is also the first CEO of an automotive industry in Nepal, and I think you've also helped a couple of startup scale up, and currently she is the leadership coach at Hiveler. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, when someone comes across your LinkedIn profile or when a listener or viewer is listening to Tapiko Sabio introduction and everything, I think it's like quite normal to be intimidated. But like, I just want to know, like, how was your childhood like? Like, how were you growing up?
Ooh, I've always been a dreamer. I've always lived in my head, and I always say that my dreams have always been bigger than my head itself. So I've always been a dreamer. I was a very imaginative child. So that was what my childhood was like. And of course, I grew up in a Nepali household, but I used to believe in things like, I remember watching Wizard of Oz and just wondering, God, I really want red shoes and all of that. So I've always been a dreamer. And I grew up in a household where I had a balance of a lot of conversations, which I don't think we have a lot in Nepal, especially Kichya. Not a conversation that women need to be a part of, but both my parents, my dad talked a lot about exercise, health, politics, and he would encourage us to read and something so simple in my house. So we'd had like a proper routine. You get up, drink lemon water, have almonds, and you will not be able to eat breakfast unless you skip like 1,500 times.
Wow.
And then you have to read the newspaper. But I grew up with a lot of discipline and a lot of cognizance, because my mom used to talk about kindness and empathy a lot. But that is how my childhood looked in a nutshell.
Oh, okay. And I think you've also studied in India and Australia. So, tapiko like childhood ma schooling say, was it in India? Like, how was the progression like? How were you in school?
So I was in Nepal till 7th grade.
Okay.
I'm still an introvert. I won't say I was. I'm still an introvert. I was a relatively quiet child. I sucked at studies.
Ew.
But I did.
I kind of imagined you were like a straight A student.
Oh, no. But after I went to India, so 7th grade Pochisa, I went to India, and that's when my life sort of changed because I was pushed to do a lot more things. I started becoming active in sports, and my principal just thought I'd be really good at public speaking. So she kept pushing me, and I just realized that I enjoyed.
She wasn't wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, I still get nervous when I go and speak in public. I always do, but then once you start, you just realize you just have to tell your story and be honest.
Right.
But India, I really changed in what I thought about myself and who I was. Like, it really helped me discover myself and realize that you can make mistakes and it's okay to take risks. So I started playing basketball, and sports also really helped me become the person that I am. And this Pochitsa, I went to America for a year. I did my freshman year there at this Australia. But yeah, I think India ko schoolings really helped me just come to my own, really.
So like, since you were mostly Baira, did you think of coming back to Nepal?
Always.
Yeah?
Always. Like, Australia 6 वर्ष बसिसकेपछि पनि I always used to say that I'm going to come back to Nepal. त्यति बेला चाहिँ ठ्याक्क PR opportunity पनि भइरहेको थियो, but I just wanted to come back home. There's this very silly story that I have. So Australia ma kaam garda चाहिँ I was working. I found a cushy job towards the end of my bachelor's degree, and I felt like, something wasn't right. Like, I was still craving for more from life. And I used to watch this documentary called The Day My God Died. It's about Maiti Nepal, and it's just how do you believe in God when you're in the middle of suppose you're sex trafficked, and how do you believe? So it talks about the day my God died, and I just used to ask myself, what am I doing in my life if I lose sight of what the bigger picture is. And what I mean by that is you can get lost in the EMI and the mortgage.
Right,
and
right.
You get a car and a house, and that just becomes your life. And I wanted it to be more. But I always wanted. So Singapore, पछि पनि I came back to Nepal. India, पछि पनि I came back to Nepal. So I don't know. I think just destined to be here over and over again.
That's nice. Because like most of the times people, they get lost in whatever is there, about EMI and everything. It's nice to see like.
Yeah, sorry. But I just wanted to add, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that too, right? Like, how do you blame them? I mean, look, yeah, I've just recently went to get my passport, and good God, we are treated like cattle. It's ridiculous. Like, how do you know if you enter, kahamबाट पस्ने हो, कुन डेस्कमा के हुन्छ, कुन... We are literally treated like we do not matter by people. And why? So, there's a big part of me that genuinely believes, and I'm sorry I cut you off, but like, how do you blame them? It's so difficult to get something that is your right in the country, that you pay taxes for. And your life is a nightmare when you just need to go and get like simple identity documentation. It is just ridiculous. So
yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But like, because you've also experienced living abroad, like, do you feel like I just want to go back? Like, I just want to go out of Nepal just to feel on Satabele?
I do. I will not lie to you. But that's why I think I do need that refresher, because if I just tell you that I'm here for like, poetic and this deeper purpose in life, it's not true. Of course, all of the decisions we take in life, there has a selfish factor to it. And
definitely.
मलाई हुन्छ, because you will not believe this. So my national identity card लिन गएको थिएँ for my passport renewal. So I'm in my 30s, right? So the man kept looking at me. It took about 10 minutes and he goes, "How come you're not married?" And I was like, I don't know. So he said, "You have to prove that you're not married for us to be able to do this." And I was like, how do I prove that I'm not married? But it's just, of course, you just go through things like that and you just wonder, how well do I fit in what the context of a Nepali woman is sometimes. So this is so कुरा हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ I just wonder how, like, I don't want to make things difficult for my parents or stuff like that. So yes, I that's why I think I keep traveling or working somewhere else. I just need like a breather before I come back to Nepal. So to say huncha.
Yeah, makes sense. I was also gonna get at birth orders, because like we did an episode ke पहिला नै, and we talked about how birth orders actually affects our personality भनेर, like firstborn and like single child and all of that. So what was your birth order?
Kanchi.
Whoa.
The youngest child.
Okay. Because
Why
like,
are you surprised?
no, because like
she's like, really? Like, how come?
Because I was guessing you were the firstborn. Yeah. No? Okay.
Look at her. She's just like, you're lying. Like, tell me the truth. No, I'm the youngest in the family.
So you had like how many siblings?
4. I'm the 4th child.
Wow. What was it like growing up with like elder siblings? Kya pamper gara jasto feel huन्थ्यो होला?
More like getting yelled at and getting blamed for everything wrong that happens in the house. But I always say this, I'm so fortunate. It's so difficult to get mentors in your life.
Right.
Nepalमा को context हेर्यो भने mentorship को खासै कुरा हुँदैन अनि
True.
I was very blessed to have, besides my parents, my 3 sisters who mentored me most of my life. And I always say this, they've always led by example of the kind of person I need to be. Whether it's empathy, kindness, resilience, strength.
Right.
It's just, so, when I was young, my sisters were already living in Australia, and we all studied in different parts of the world. Boarding school in Darjeeling, then they went to Australia. So all of that happened. So we didn't get to spend a lot of time together, unfortunately, which still pinches a little bit, but I'm very, very fortunate to have them in my life.
Do you think that kind of affected your career as well? Because you talk a lot about mentorships, even in your TikToks and LinkedIn or pani ni.
It does, because I always say this, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to figure everything out on your own. The life does feel very lonely. I'm sorry, I'll get philosophical quite often. I mean, life does, right? You always feel like you're alone in this journey. The benefit of having mentors is almost like benefit of having friends. You realize that you don't have to come up with all the answers yourself. There's someone there to help you, guide you, give you strength, because not all the time are we nice to ourselves or do we motivate ourselves. So the point of having mentors is just to say that, hey, you need an extra push, I'm here. Whether they talk to you personally or not. Like I have virtual mentors besides my family, Gary Vee, Simon Sinek, Brene Brown, but they are not mentors. What I do is watching their content just makes me feel like, you know what, I can do this too. Oh, I watch Oprah Winfrey and I'm like, good God, look at what that woman has been through. And I'm sitting here feeling shit about myself. So that's the point of having mentors. And I think that's what my sisters helped me with that. But as I grew up, it's just realizing that even if it feels really alone at times, because it does, there'll always be someone somewhere who's put out something that is going to help you.
That's true. I kind of also want to get into leadership topic because you have been in this industry for quite some time, and you are a leadership coach. So about leadership, I think we also kind of initiated this conversation agadi about how people perceive you as like, at least I did, like assertive and ekdamai like a bold woman, which you are a badass woman, like hands down.
Got my compliment from this podcast and I'm gonna leave.
But at the same time, you also quote a lot from Brene Brown, and you're also talking a lot about empathy and compassion. And for me, like I remember this incident ke पहिला चाहिँ. So I don't know, I think I was reading some article or something, and the monthly column हुन्छ नि त्यसमा चाहिँ एकजनाको question थियो के, like I've just started my job, do you have any tips on how I can perform better भनेर थियो. अनि त्यो रिप्लाई गर्ने त्यो एडिटरले चाहिँ they're like I think you could have been more specific about if you're a guy or a girl, because like I would answer differently. If you're a guy, I would advise you put up a picture of your family so that you're like अलिकति एकदम down to earth खालेको feeling आउँछ. And if you're a woman, do not put up a picture of your family like quotesहरू राख यस्तो खालेको भनेको थियो. And I think त्यो पनि I think somewhere it kind of embedded that message in me हुन्छ नि पहिल्यै हुँदाखेरि. अनि growing up अहिले चाहिँ I see like people talking about leadership positions मा पनि हुन्छ नि, they try to hide their vulnerability के. Like I don't want to be honest about my weakness because it's just gonna be like I will be perceived as weak खालेको कुरा गर्छ नि त. And like here you are, you're like talking about empathy and you're also talking about हुन्छ नि professionalism and all of the things that you need to do as a woman in leadership खालेको. So how do you strike the balance? Because I think both of it is important. Like we talk about the big five अनि हुन्छ नि त्यसमा के भन्छ assertiveness हुनुपर्छ के भनेर भन्न पनि भन्छ. And that's not wrong के. You have to like draw your boundaries. So where do you start and how do you find the balance के?
See, there's no right answer, to be honest. If my education has taught me anything in life, is that there is never a right answer. And the point of being human and the point of you live in such a volatile, disrupted world today, you cannot say that this is the right answer for everything. But I'll tell you the honest truth about my career. I've only come to my own now, okay? In the past 4 years is when I came to my own. 5 years. When I started my career, I talk about this. I have as well. Paila, I was the only woman and I was the only brown woman at certain points of my career. Majority of it, to be honest. So I didn't want to be perceived as weak. I didn't want someone to think that I'm going to start crying if you yell at me, because that is not how they should perceive you, because it's not true. We're made up with a lot of resilience. And Pailako leadership was about being stoic. Like, you don't show your emotions. And where you strike that balance is first you have to earn that respect that you can do that job well. And that's your first priority. So what you do when you start a new career or you join a new job is first you prove to them that you can do it. Once you've come to your own, then you start being more honest and authentic and real. I'm not saying pretend, but I'm saying when you look at your priority list on when you join a job, what should I be prioritizing? The first thing is to prioritize earning that respect and telling people that you can do it, that you've got it in you. Right. So for that, if you think about empathy science, absolutely. How can you be good at your job if you haven't empathized with your boss and understand how to handle them?
Right.
Because being good in your career is all about people management, no matter what point of your career you're in. So when I started, empathy is important, but empathy doesn't mean being vulnerable all the time. and telling people your problems. It's not about going around and be like, you know what, I had a panic attack the other day. It's not that. You have to understand the situation. You have to understand the people. So when you talk about career, if I was to give an advice, it would just be this. First, no matter which job you join, like even after 12 years, if I start a new role tomorrow, I will prove to people first that I can do it. Not that you have to prove yourself over and over again, but show them why you're there. Show them what you can do. And I'm not saying like, beat your chest and be like, I'm going to fix this project. Pani haina. तर हरेक पोइन्टमा एम्पथी त चाहिन्छ. बट भनरेबिलिटीको कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ one-on-one conversation हुँदैछ भने it's okay to be vulnerable. But if you're talking about careerको priority चाहिँ first you have to and the word that you used is extremely crucial. It's boundaries. Whether you're a man, especially women, we need to have boundaries at workplace. People should know that they cannot take advantage of you. Right. Because unfortunately, that still exists. I mean, it's happened to me in my career where a big firm partner just thought that it was okay to flirt with me and call me out for dinner. And he thought it was okay. But when you talk about career prioritization, one is prove that you can do the job, earn respect, have clear boundaries. Once you've done that, then you jump into being more authentic. Once you found your comfortable spot, because your vulnerability is something that people need to earn. Unless you're very comfortable with it. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to go back into the shell. Imagine you talk to someone about depression at work and they're like, ke khaliko depression? Ke yo haina depression bhaneko? You're just feeling sad. Go drink water or we go for a beer and you're going to feel fine. Imagine how horrible you're going to feel. So empathy, vulnerability, bhaneko, you have to assess the situation first. And vulnerability is something that people in front of you need to earn unless you're extremely comfortable with it and external factors will not affect you. But that would be my advice.
That's such a nice thing. I don't think I've like thought about it that way, how like vulnerability should be earned whenever. Thanks for that. So like I think whatever you've just said ani tabale yo ta sabai experience garera ani अहिले बुझेको कुरा हो नि त. So how was it like I mean how was the journey like for you to get to this point, to understand this? Was there an incident which made you feel like, yeah, like people actually need to earn my vulnerability? Or
how do I answer this question? I mean, it's been 12 years in like so many countries. Even my educational journey in Bhavan, it's all over the place, right? It's like 4 countries, 5 including Nepal. So it is a lot. But of course, there are incidents that shape you. That a vulnerability needs to be earned. Not like, how Nepali is saying, so don't, my English, don't wash your dirty laundry in front of other people. When I say vulnerability needs to be earned is sometimes we just expect people to understand us. And it's not their responsibility to. So like I gave you that example, I hear so many people talk about depression and just that they feel misunderstood because every time you open up to someone and they don't understand you, you just do yourself a disservice. And I mean, there's so many incidents in my life, but I think I got this a lot from my family as well.
Okay.
It's not good to be very closed off because you're not going to be authentic. And when I say vulnerability needs to be earned, I don't mean that you just sit and test people and be like, let's talk about depression and see if you understand it. Then I will tell you about my journey. But you will know me. Like, think about it like any relationship that you're in, like a romantic relationship. You don't go on the first date and tell them exactly all the mental health issues and the childhood trauma and the relationship trust issues.
A red flag.
You don't do that, right? But why is that different in any other meeting as well? Like when you meet other people, get time to know them. And it doesn't have to be about you all the time as well. We feel like, it'll make it easier. But the reason I'm not telling you any incident is there's so many. I can't just pick one. Life does teach you along the way. But that's the only reason I say vulnerability needs to be earned, because it takes a lot of resilience to be vulnerable. And resilience is built over time. So make sure that your foundation is very, very strong before you start telling people what you're struggling with, because it is not their responsibility to understand you. It is your responsibility to protect and heal yourself.
Right. Makes sense. When we talk about empathy, and I think you also talk about this a lot, about empathy in leadership, I think empathy practice garnalai, I think there's also a lot of work that needs to be done on the self-love journey, because I don't think you can be kind to someone else if you're not kind to yourself. So can you talk about your self-love journey, or did it come to you naturally? How was it for you?
Oh hell no! It did not come to me naturally at all. I have been very mean to myself all my life. And even if you talk about career, I've used my career as a shield to protect myself.
What do you mean by that?
I built enough career to protect me, and just self-validation theory, like career. That the fact that I worked so hard, the fact that I got so many promotions, it almost acted like a validation for me. Be like, oh, at least I have that. I've never felt pretty in my entire life. I still don't. I don't look at the mirror and go, look at you, how beautiful. I've never been nice to myself when it comes to external. So I always worked on my head. As what I mean by that is I read a lot. I watched a lot of things that helped me become more intellectual or more understanding of the world.
Right. Would you say that was your coping mechanism?
Yes, it was. And what actually pushed me right off the cliff was, so when I lost my sister, I talk a lot about grief. I watched this woman, no matter how difficult it got, just be kinder to herself over and over again. Just that she loved life so much, and all she wanted to do was live. That's all she wanted. And she'd talk about, and I always say that she lived life completely till the very last minute. And what that forced me to do is, because when you don't love yourself, I talk about this as well. I've had suicidal thoughts because I just used to think that the world would be a better place without all the drama and trauma that I brought to the table. But why? Why? What made me think that? Why would I feel like that? And when I watched my parents grieve for my sister, I never thought about how much it would affect them. And that is actually what pushed me off the cliff, to just be kinder to myself and not blame myself every time someone got upset. Did I do something wrong? Oh my God, I'm not. अनि केटीहरूलाई गाह्रो पनि छ, सानैदेखि उत्ताउली नहो, केटाले जिस्काए पनि तिम्रै गल्ती. Even if there's like, you think about it, like even rape, you're still blamed everything. So it doesn't help. We are just born with a lot of guilt. But losing my sister, she's always given me a gift all my life, gift of love, patience, her maternal instinct, her protection. And even after her passing, she's left me with just this deep gratitude for life and just accepting myself with my flaws. I'm not perfect. I will keep growing, but that doesn't have to come from a place of, what do you call it, self-hate. It can just come from a place of self-acceptance.
I think that's a very profound, I don't know, that's just like a profound moment. Yeah. Okay. I kind of also wanted to ask you about तपाईँको journey. Yes, हैन, तर who did you look up to growing up? I mean, over the time, you talked. I think self-love is kind of a journey. It's also like practice. And you don't just like wake up one day and you're like, okay, like self-love, okay, I love myself. Like even if you like realize that you need more self-love, it's also like practice again and again. But I think all of us need a hero, someone you have to look up to. And I just wanted to ask, like, तपाईँको चाहिँ को थियो त्यो भनेर के?
It's my family. I mean, I just look at them as individuals now. Even when I was growing up, I'll tell you this. When I was younger, I used to look up to people like Oprah Winfrey, and like when Barack Obama won the elections, I was like, good God, look at this man speak. So I always had people like that, like Aung San Suu Kyi. When I was younger, I looked up to these people. But you know what I realized when I grew up, and also recently, I look at my family as individuals now. You always take your parents for granted, but I don't mean love, because we do say we love you to each other, and we have that in our family. But I took my family for granted, and I didn't look at the lessons that they were giving me all my life. So I look at my dad as an individual, as a man who's flawed, who's learned, who's built his own life. I look at my mother, who's come to her own in terms of her identity and just not identifying as our mother, which a lot of moms get lost in. So, I talked about housewives being great people managers and time managers. I learned that from my mom, and I look at my sisters. I mean, I talk about my sister Pranayna KC that I lost. Her resilience, her strength, the fact that she went to Australia. She was struggling as a student years ago, decades ago. She ate cabbage for a week, paid for her own tuition so she didn't have to travel. I mean, you look around the world constantly looking for people that inspire us, but they're right there in our homes. And I always say this as well. Sometimes when we look for lessons or people to look up to, we always look at things that we want to imbibe. What do we want to learn from them? And I always say this. Sometimes if you meet horrible, bad people and you see people make mistakes, that's a greater learning because you know what not to do. And sometimes you just need that elimination process because there's so many right things to do, but wrong things to do are a lot more concrete. So if you just look at bad leaders or just people who don't set great examples, they're also people you should look up to in the sense that I know now what not to do. And that is also something that I've learned over the years.
That's nice. Also, तपाईँले अघि पनि mention गर्नुभयो about how you look up to gurus on the internet. You also like talk a lot about Simon Sinek and his whole idea of like finding your why khali. So I kind of wanted to know like what is your why?
Oh no.
I'm not trying to like put you on the spotlight, which I'm probably doing, but just wanted to know like तपाईँको journey चाहिँ on finding your why.
You know what? I don't have a grand quote that I live by, not anymore, at least. I live it by the day, and I'll tell you my why. And it might sound very weird. I just want to go to bed at the end of the day knowing that I gave it my best and being as kind as possible to myself and everyone else. So my why is I want to know that that day I go to bed satisfied because I realize that success is so subjective. No one can define it. And I've always been chasing that kind of success in my life and my career. But my why is I want to go to bed happier. And that's it. My why is that. And if that means serving people, if it's finding that purpose for the day, for the job, that is fine. But I know that that's not very deep, but that's my why.
Do you have these days?
Sorry?
Like, I mean, your तपाईँको why is like at the end of the day, you just want to feel like you gave it your 100%. Like even now, like, are you satisfied every time you go to bed? Are you like...
No, I'm not. I'm not. But you know what? It's just going back to bed with a lot of gratitude and knowing that I did. Like I do have days where I just feel like, you know what? I did my best. Like as horrible as the situation was, I maintained my kindness. I maintained wishing people well, not wishing anyone any harm, even if they were horrible to you. So I do have days like that. But there's some days I'm just miserable still. There's some days I still go, but like you said, self-love is like exercise. You cannot go to the gym 12 years ago and expect to have a great body today. You have to practice self-love every day. And some days I don't find that in me, but I don't beat myself or berate myself anymore. So I do have good days. Compared to a few years ago, I have many of those days now.
Yeah, because the thing about have I given my best? I think a lot of the times you just have to like, convince yourself that, like I did give my 100% khaleको. Because for me, it was so difficult to just admit that, okay, fine, like I gave my 100% bhaner, okay? I think for me, say personally, I think I've talked about this in Aru podcast, like Arko episodes also. But like, I think that came to me after I started my therapy journey, okay? Ani त्यसमा चाहिँ like I don't know, I kind of like expected myself to be everywhere and do everything हुन्छ नि. And my therapist, he's just like one day, how many people would ideally like कतिजना मान्छेले चाहिँ सक्छ होला त्यो सब काम गर्नलाई अनि like, and then like it struck me के like हुन्छ नि, maybe like यो individual काम गर्नलाई त अझै 4-5 जना मान्छे चाहिन्थ्यो होला नि त. So why am I expecting like 4-5 people को work to be done by myself खालीको? So I think that kind of also made me realize that you don't have to be so hard on yourself. So I didn't want to like put you on the spotlight and be like, what are you doing, Kalen? But like just trying to like resonate. Okay, another area I also wanted to touch upon was because Tawaita, you've worked in many countries, I know. So what was your experience like working abroad? How was it different from Nepal ko? Also, which was your favorite?
Ooh, Australia was my favorite only because I started my career there, and Aussies are very chilled people, very relaxed. I always talk about this. My boss used to take us for like our Monday morning meetings or huddles used to be around beer. So that was just like an Aussie thing to do.
Oh, around beer.
So
Okay.
yeah, so they just like instead of coffee, we just drink beer and stuff like that. But it was just like relaxed and very professional though. I think what I learned in Australia that has stayed with me and helped me a lot in my career is making that differentiation between personal and professional life. That you could be very good friends with your boss, but when they give you feedback and when it comes to work, you don't be chummy.
Right.
You may respect boundaries. Malai saying the hardest working experience for me has been India. Only because of the logistics, as in just like the paperwork and stuff. But Australia was my favorite.
Okay, so like what in terms of logistics though? India, might say, because I kind of thought it would be Nepal.
No, it's not Nepal because in India, I learned a lot. India was the one country that taught me the most in my adult career in terms of like technology, data, how marketing is perceived very differently, and how vast marketing is in India. That was insane. Like I'd underestimated India, to be honest. But in terms of logistics, it's very difficult for a Nepali person to get something as simple as a SIM card. So what happens is if you're an international citizen, you get an OCI. Overseas Citizens Card. And if you're an Indian, you get Aadhaar card. Nepali people, we don't get anything because we don't need a visa and we're not Indians to get Aadhaar card. And you need Aadhaar card or OCI to get anything, like a SIM card to open a bank account. So it's very difficult. I had to know someone and get referred to a branch manager and then talk to the branch manager, give them all my paperwork, create a personal relationship. But that was extremely painstaking. Until I just get shocked at... Because I went to the Indian embassy in Nepal and asked them this question. They had no idea. They said it's very simple. And I couldn't even get a SIM card. So the SIM card I used when I was in India was a friend's. So just simple things like that. What do you do without a number? What do you do with that data today? So that became extremely difficult and that really pissed me off.
Yeah, because I remember like मेरो पनि SIM card दिन चाहिँ I had to have my friend's Aadhaar card to get one out. Okay? But that's also like अलिकति कस्तो paradoxical in a sense that like के भन्छ visa नहुने त like India नेपालको त अझै हुन्छ नि. It is to like make things easier for Indian and Nepalese citizens. अनि अरू कुरा त्यो OCI you mentioned त्यो नभएर गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ कस्तो difficult नै रहेछ.
Yeah, but the blame is on our legislators. Like, you haven't thought about us enough to make sure that we are safe and we are taken care of in other country. Like, that is a legislation that is a drawback from our legislation that we haven't been thought about enough. Like you said, it should have been easier, right? Exactly. You would think you don't have to go in with a visa. You should. But good God, it was a nightmare. No matter, I used to work for a big company. It was an MNC. They had a huge account with HDFC, but the bank refused to open an account for me. So I couldn't open an employee account. I had to go through like a personal contact. But that just shows you the flaws in our legislative system, like I mentioned earlier. Passport lina jandakiri, we're treated like herds of cattle. You shouldn't be treated that way. We should be treated with respect. And respect, when you go, it's just about management and just thought about enough. Like, I felt like a third-class citizen there, and it was pretty shameful, to be honest. Gets pissed off.
Tone of voice ne change bhayera ke. But like I think you've worked like a decent amount of time here in Nepal. So what do you think is the gap yata chai? Because obviously like India, Australia market is very competitive, and I think there are a lot of things that we need to learn. And I think you also talk about professionalism and how to engrave it in our everyday life. So what do you think are the problems that is here in Nepal, and how can we sort of navigate them?
Honestly, there's only one problem that I see, and that is why my sister's company, Hive, was born. It's self-learning. To expect as a professional, or no matter which part of the world you're born in, You're living in a world today where you have to grow yourself, you have to upskill yourself, you have to reskill, you have to unlearn, relearn. That has to be a part of who you are if you want to survive in today's world. In countries like India, जब data change हुन्छ, like for example, if you think about TikTok's integration in our lives, social media, how old is it? It is actually very, very recent. How COVID देखि नै हो, it started integrating in our lives in a very deep level. Right. How do you learn that if you're not? It's learning. How to use that platform is still a learning experience. You just think about things like that. And India, the biggest difference, even in Australia, but India specifically, because that is more of a recent experience for me, the competitiveness and the fact that there's such a huge competition because you could be replaced in a minute by 1,000 other applicants who are as competent as you are just on top of your game. You do that for yourself. All the founders that I've worked with in India and the founders that I talked to date, they're learning. Like I spoke to one founder yesterday who runs a women professional networking app. It's pretty good and great. He was telling me how he's relearning finance and investment because that's what's working on the platform. How often do you hear that here? So after you bachelor's ko bare hamle education system ko bare ma complain garcha, my question to students are, what are you doing to learn? If you expect that you're going to understand marketing by reading a book, you're being silly. True. Because marketing has evolved. You have to understand data. You have to understand the softwares like Smartly or even Hootsuite to understand how it's working. Like you look at Canva's integration in our lives or even ChatGPT. It's still a learning experience. The biggest gap in Nepal is that we have stopped learning and become independent in the learning process, because even to date, the only reason that I've been able to survive in the professional sector is I go 9 to 5 is one job. But what you do after you go home is what is going to define how successful you're going to be in your career.
True. That's nice. So like, what do you do to like, keep yourself updated? Like, tapeko चाहिँ form of learning So
I'll tell you something very simple. And I tell this to anyone that talks to me, whoever talks to me. You use social media. All of us use social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter. LinkedIn is one of my favorite platforms. I follow people who talk about things like that. Like, what is it that I want to learn today? If it is about empathy, leadership, marketing, who am I following? Same with TikTok. And I talk about this a lot. If you're spending 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour of your day in TikTok, you can train TikTok to show you what you want to learn. Because like 4 jana मान्छे बसेछ भने 4 janaको TikTok will not look the same. Your feed won't, your FYP won't. And that is because you're looking at that content. So as I was watching TikTok CEO ko interview, that's all that showed on my feed, and how he was dealing with the US Congress. But for me, that's learning, right? Did I learn from watching him address difficult people? Absolutely. And that's how you learn. So learning doesn't have to be, I read 6 books in a week. You don't have to watch the news anymore. You don't have to type marketing trends 2023 and learn. Nope. All you have to do is go to TikTok. You want to learn marketing? #marketing. Who's the marketing guru that you want to follow? Follow 2 people and watch the content. That's it. Learning is simple and it can be a lot of fun. Yeah.
True. Also, as we're getting to the end of the podcast, how do you take care of yourself or like take care of your mental health? Because like that is also something you talk about in your TikToks, and I think those are some of the TikToks that are doing well for you as well. I know that because work and everything, 9 to 5 and everything is there. That it's also like draining, Nita. So how do you strike that balance and take care of yourself?
Something that I've learned to work on and be very aware of is self-awareness, right? You don't know how to take care of yourself if you're not aware what is happening to yourself, like listening to your body, listening to your mind, and see what's happening. I meditate every day without fail. That is something that just helps me be more centered. And it's not about becoming perfect. It's about just trying your best for that day. So I try to set my intention for the day with meditation. That helps. And surrounding myself with positive people. I don't like negativity around me. The way I take care of myself is making sure that if people are complaining, bitchy, negative, I try to support them, but I don't drain myself in that process. So I try to surround myself with good people. And like I said, my social media feed, Everything you see on my phone is good things, like positive things, people who tell me to be kinder, nicer, better, they're just helping you grow. So taking care of yourself is that, and just spending time on my own and learning to enjoy my company. Even if it's forced time, 1 hour in a day, just sit with my thoughts and just be grateful. Gratitude has helped me a lot because you will always find something to be grateful for in your life.
Right.
So gratitude has really helped me look after myself.
Okay. So, like, for the final words, I mean, what would you like to tell the audience, whoever is listening or watching us, about yourself, and where can they find you? Would you like to say something?
So if you want to grow in your professional career, if you want to go on this journey of feeling more empowered and accepting yourself, that's why you should follow me. Those are the only two reasons I'd say. And you can find me on TikTok. My favorite platform is LinkedIn, where you'll find me as well. But if I was to leave you with some words, one is just know you're not alone. No matter what journey you're in, you'll always find someone who will resonate with your story, or who would have shared their story. That'll help you feel not alone. Accept who you are, no matter how flawed you think you are, and use social media for your advantage. Train TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you use, train it to help you feel good about yourself. Even if it's following an influencer who you think is beautiful, and every time you look at them, you feel like, why do I not have that body or that face? Don't follow them, because that's not telling you good things about yourself. So follow people, surround yourself with people who make you feel good about yourself, and keep learning and growing.
Thank you so much. And towards the end, we have some goodies for you from our sponsors,
Goodies.
Coffee 8848 and Anona
Thank you
Clothing.
so much.
So Anona
I
Clothing
appreciate
say they are 100% organic.
Love it.
It's just like, also something I'm wearing is, I mean, the dress that I'm wearing is also Anona Clothing. So shout out to Anona Clothing. They have like amazing material. And Coffee 8848, you can see like it's just like pouches jasto khale cha haina. It's basically like green tea jasto packaging, but it's coffee. Okay? So it's very convenient for you to get like Americano everywhere you go.
Love it. Support Nepali businesses, people.
Yes. And on that note, if you like our podcast and our content, please follow us on all platforms and give this podcast or this video a like if you actually enjoyed this. And with that, thank you for staying with us, and see you in the next one. Bye.